So as I reloaded and pointed the gun at him, is when he jumped in the back of the van. But I ran to the passenger side and then shot through the passenger side window.
You were growing up in Manchester's Moss Side.
Yeah. Well, in the early 90s, there was 2 gangs that have been at war. So, yeah, from a young age, you're exposed to gang violence and gang-related activity. You know, so what should have really been frightening to a young person or deterred a young person from it, it normalised it, somewhat glamorised it as well. The first time I got involved with crime, I'd say I was about 12 or 13 years old. My thing was more driving underage, but then when I was 13 is when I got my first firearm. My circle of friends, we had the name of our gang, let's say, was the drive-by crew. So then people would always like make fun of us and laugh and joke and be like, "Oh, how are you called a drive-by crew and you don't have a gun and you don't drive?" So then as simple as that, we went out and got ourselves a car and got ourselves a gun.
How many of you were there?
About 4 of us.
And all very young?
Yeah, all the same age, all in the same year in school, all from the same area. Started off like selling weed, driving around, like I said, underage. Had this gun. We never shot the gun. We just used to brandish it and show people and things like that. And like street robberies on a minor scale. So what starts off as, like I said, driving around, then I might have older gang members in my car, giving them a lift, driving them somewhere. Then it's as simple as being seen by somebody, and then from that point on, you're labelled a gang member.
Were you worried about your family being targeted?
Yeah, family's been targeted, to be honest. You know, there was a time when I've gone to takeaway with my mum. Mum saying to me, let me go in. I'm saying, all right, sweet, I'll go in. Gone in there. When I'm stood in there waiting for my food, the door's open behind me. It's one of my enemies. He's bouncing around. And then I've ended up leaving, but then he was in the doorway next to the takeaway I was in, and I heard the gun cock. So I'm just walking to the car, but I'm looking at my mum. I don't want to make it obvious, you know, because then my mum's going to panic. So then we've got in the car. I've already heard the gun be cocked, you know, so I'm just waiting for them to start shooting. So I'm saying, Mum, can you just drive the car? Then she drove off. Then after we drove off, that's when I explained to her what happened, you know. But the level of disrespect involved in, like, gangbanging, you know, like people will do things to you in front of your mum. I didn't, me personally, because that was like one of my rules. You know, I'm not going to disrespect somebody's mother because of the love I had for my mum and my gran. I lived a double life, you know, even till this day when my mum hears some of the things that I speak about, it's almost like a shock to her. When I was 17, I got shot 3 times by a rival gang. I was set up in a honey trap. So a female has lured me to a location. I've gone to that location, and then when I got there was like 8 to 10 of my rivals waiting for me. Then they shot me 3 times and left me for dead in a local park.
Where did the shot go?
My stomach, my back and my leg. I fell asleep in the ambulance, and then I've woke up and now I'm in the trauma centre with all my family around me crying, everybody's crying. But I've not even realised what's really happened. You know, I just felt like I went to sleep and woke up and now everybody's here. My sister's turned to me and says, "Oh, is this the end of it now?" So I'm saying to her, no, this is just the beginning.
Do you think there was a moment when you realised that the crime has become your life?
It stemmed from a group of my friends. They got into this argument with another guy over drug dealing and you're selling drugs in our area and X, Y, and Z. They've then had an altercation with this individual. a shooting's taken place. Then he's then made a statement and got all them arrested. So now they're sat in prison awaiting trial. But then I was on the outside, and with my mentality at this point, I was saying this individual can't be in our area if he's gave a statement to the police and got my friends locked up. I seen a group of my friends outside an address down the road from where I was staying. And when I've approached them, they've all started telling me, said, oh, he's out and he's looking for you. Then while we was having this conversation, the phones rang and it's him. And he's like, oh, where are you now? We're looking for you. There's 12 of us, we've got 6 guns and we're looking for you. We're coming to your mum's house. So I thought, I can't really have them coming to my mum's house. So I said, I'll come and meet you. Then I went and met him. When I got there, I seen them all scattered around this van. So as I approached them is when I let off the first shot. Majority of them scattered, but this individual stayed there. So as I reloaded and pointed the gun at him, is when he jumped in the back of the van and the van tried to drive off. But I ran to the passenger side and then shot through the passenger side window.
So that was an attempt murder?
Yeah.
How much did you get for that?
I had the conspiracy to murder on the hired help, because they say I planned to kill him, but because he got in the van. Then I had the attempted murder on his cousin, which was the driver of the van, and I ended up with a 12-year IPP. So it was a life sentence for public protection and minimum term 12 years.
How old were you when that happened?
18 when I got sentenced.
How did it all make you feel back then?
It's a crazy one, because as much as 18 is a young age, looking at it from a perspective of hanging around with gang members from about the age of 13 upwards, you know, I felt at that point I was established and older than I was. It was a crazy feeling, because to me I felt like I've passed all tests now. I got shot, I didn't say anything. Now I'm in prison for serious charges. I've not said anything. Like, I've passed the test, you know, so it was almost like a badge of honor, is how I seen it at that point.
You going into prison, what were the first sort of days and nights there like?
The first few nights, in all honesty, like, I had the best sleep ever, you know, because like, I was no longer on edge, because when I was out, it was like every single day you're expecting the police to come flying through your door. Every time I'm leaving the house, I don't even know if I'm going to make it home that day, you know. So then being in prison, it's almost like I know I'm safe, if you know what I mean. So I feel I just had the best sleep ever. Because the worst thing that can happen to you in prison is you get stabbed, you know. And in all honesty, you kind of have to let somebody get close enough to stab you, if you know what I mean. Prison life in the early stages, because we're in local prisons, everybody knows who you are. So that was my first time in prison, but by the time I've got there, I've already got a reputation outside. So when I come in, that reputation then follows me into prison. But then as soon as I got convicted for the conspiracy to murder, they made me Cat A. So at that point, I was 19 at that point, and then that's when they sent me to Strangeways. But then when I went to the Cat A unit, now you're with real criminals. You know, you're with people that are in for terrorism charges, serial killers, you know, natural lifers. And that was the first time I ever met someone doing a whole life tariff. And the one that stuck in my head, I'll say, was Dave Bieber, the American bodybuilder.
Why?
Because it was him that, he came to me one day with a plan, and he's saying to me, look, you're from Manchester. I'm saying, yeah. He's like, have you got friends outside? I'm saying, yeah. He's like, have they got guns? I'm saying, yeah. He's like, so, if you can get me over the wall, that's, I think it was $1 million. So there was him and someone else. So he said, I'll give you $1 million. and he'll give you a meal. So at this point, I'm sat there scratching my head thinking, how can I get this man over the wall? A few days later, because what he started doing, they started pressing the general alarm. So when you press the general alarm in prison, all the officers from everywhere come running to that point. Now, they kept doing that to time how long it takes the officers to come. So there was a full-fledged plan in action, and I was a part of it. And I didn't even realise, or I did realise it was just due to immaturity and stupidity. I've agreed to it, do you know what I mean? But then somehow the officers have got wind of it, so then he got sent to the segregation. And that's what saved me, because I would have got myself in a lot of trouble.
What do you think you missed most about outside life?
That's a mad one, you know, because after a few years in, it's like you're shut off from the outside world. So everything just becomes, like, say, a memory, you know? Like, you kind of forget about things. So with things like, let's say, you have a partner outside, you forget what the touch actually feels like, if you know what I mean. So everyone will say, oh, I can't wait to get out for this or for that. But in reality, you forget what that is. You're just so used to being in that environment. You forget what that is. You forget what it's like to even sleeping in the bed with someone else, even having someone else in the room with you, living with someone else. You're trapped in an environment where you're just on your own, you know. And prison's full of ego and pride, so we can't talk about real life emotions, you know what I mean? So for me, it was just being trapped in that environment. I forgot about the outside world.
What was the worst things you've seen and experienced in prison?
Again, it's being in the high security sector. People like, I seen some guy get his throat slit over a rumour that turned out to not even be true. You either have to toughen up or become a victim, to be honest. But then after a few years in, I would say after like 5 years of your sentence, it just becomes the norm. You know, it just becomes a normal thing. So rather than chasing, say, release and focusing on the outside world, you just live day by day.
Did you make a decision to turn your life around?
Going into prison, I already knew the charges they had me on, and I knew I was getting a long time. My gran was already old at that point, so I'm thinking, with all these years, she's probably not going to make it. I was on the phone to my mum, and my mum saying, like, we've been to the doctors today, and the doctor's saying there's not much long left. So now I've said, put my gran on the phone. So I'm speaking to my gran, and my head's telling me, my heart's telling me, tell her you love her, tell her you love her. But then my head's like, won't allow me to say it. Do you know what I mean? So I put that down to this fake image I had of myself, this fake persona I used to put on, you know? So then, but I couldn't go off the phone. It's like I kept saying to myself, say it, say it, say it. But then it just wouldn't come out. Then the next day, I phoned home again. But this time I said, you know what, I'm going to say it, I'm going to say it. And this time, when I phoned, my mum said, oh, she's gone. Then that's when reality hit me then. Like, everything else, all the peer pressure, what other people are going to say, all these type of things, that all went out the window, you know, because now this has happened, and this is the day I've been dreading since I got to prison. And I thought to myself, you know what, like, I'm not doing this no more. Do you know what I mean? I'm not doing it. At first, the way I was thinking, so it's like I was thinking to myself, all right, so I'm not a gang member anymore. I'm not going to get involved in any gang activity. When I get out, I'm not going to, like, walk the streets with a firearm. But then I'm also thinking, but I need money in these things, so I might get out and get involved with some drug dealers what I met in prison. I might get involved with some armed robbers what I met in prison. So I still had a criminal mindset. Yeah, you might not be an active gang member, but you're still selling drugs. You might not be an active gang member, but you're still deciding to be involved in armed robberies, you know? And that's when I thought, even that's not good enough, because even that could send me back to prison. So that's when I decided to start getting my education sorted. my vocational courses, all these type of things.
When you got out of prison, how old were you?
I was 30 when I got out. I remember the first day I got out, I was in an apartment with my partner. Then when I was waiting for the taxi to take me back to the bail hostel, we was just stood outside, so me and her were just speaking. Then a car's pulled up to a giveaway with like 4 males in with the windows down. So in my head, that's a drive-by, you know, because that's what we was used to. So then it's like I've blacked out. So I'm saying to her, go back inside, go back inside. She's not realizing what I'm saying. She can just hear me shouting, go back inside. So she's like, no, I'm not going back inside. What am I going back inside for? So then I'm saying to her, please go inside, go inside. Started like panicking. So then she started walking away. So then I've charged at the car. But then as I started charging at the car, they've all looked at me like, what's he doing? And just drove off normal, you know? And then that's when I've realized like I'm still trapped, you know? Because before that point, I would say like I'm done. I'm out of it. I'm a citizen, law-abiding citizen now. But in reality with things like that, it's like it showed me that you're still mentally trapped, you know?
Did you feel judged by society because of your criminal past?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's like, as soon as I got out, like, because I was on goal mode, so I thought, I need to keep active. So I think I got out on the Monday. By the Thursday, I was sat having an interview. As soon as I mentioned my criminal record, they're like, no, it's not happening, no. And then that was I would say one of the worst points for me, because that's when I'm having that tug of war in my head. So I'm thinking, I'm trying to change, but you don't want to give me a chance. So what's the point, you know? Can't be angry at the employer, you know, because like I said, it was my decisions. But then I'm thinking to myself, why are you trying to change when nobody wants to give you a chance? And I know for a fact I could just make one phone call and be right back in the position I left in 2007.
Can you talk us through what you're doing now?
What I'm doing now is mentor and facilitator for a charity, St Giles Trust, here in London. So what they do is they hire mentors and facilitators with lived experience. So then we use that lived experience to reach the younger generation and speak to them. As much as the police have got a job to do, and they've admitted it themselves that they always look at the young person as a perpetrator, when a lot of the time that young person's a victim, you know? So like for me growing up, I never woke up and decided, you know what, I want to be a gang member today.
What is the main advice you give them, those young people who go through the same thing?
The main advice I give them is it's fake, it's false, you know, it's short-lived, you know? So it's like, the first time I got arrested, I was probably about 14. 4 years later, I'm sat in prison. And then you go to prison, drop out of school, college, whatever it is, you're gonna have to do it again anyway, you know? You have to do these things, you have to have an education, you have to have some type of qualifications to even survive as an adult outside. People ask me all the time, like, how do you feel, how do people from your past feel? What happens if a rival gang member sees you or this or that? And I'm saying to them, like, the mission I'm on, the journey I'm on, outweighs everything, anything anyone can say, you know? Like, my passion is to raise awareness to this younger generation. Like, you don't have to go through what I went through.
A car's pulled up in front, all the windows started coming through, bam, bam, all the guns are out. I'm seeing old Bill standing everywhere. Next thing, the windows have all busted in, all the windows have come through. I mean, I've been pulled out the back window of the car.